Okay, I'm going to read for about 10 minutes. I hope it doesn't feel too long. I'm starting from close to the beginning of the book. It's a road trip novel, ultimately, and so this is basically the road trip is what what I'm going to read, and then we'll chat. Okay. If I think of things along the way that you need to know, I will I will put them in, but it's close enough to the beginning, I don't think you will. Okay. There are two ways you can drive up to Piute County from San Francisco. That's fictional, by the way. There is no Piute County in California. You can take I-5, which runs up through the central agricultural flatlands, or you can head way east up the mountains that encircle Lake Tahoe, all the way to Reno, and then north from there up the endless state roads. Mom always went up the mountain and down the valley, so I decided that's what we'll do too. Honey is happy enough when I put her in the car seat, even though I do so with hideous pangs, because she should be facing backward, but faces forward. I switched it when her unusually long baby legs started to seem cramped, and then read she should stay facing backward for many more months, but couldn't get it tight enough by myself when I tried to turn it back around. The idea of calling the fire department or one of the daycare parents to do it for me is so humiliating that for now I've abandoned her to her fate in a front-facing car seat, which I secretly prefer anyway, because now I can see her and at red lights I can reach back and squeeze her feet. I give her a string cheese, but I panic at the first stoplight, remembering that it's a choking hazard in a moving car. And first I scrabble my hand back ineffectually, and then I pull over before the entrance to the highway, so that she can eat the string cheese under supervision. But I've ruined it, and she throws the cheese and cries. And she cries all the way over the bridge and into the customary gridlock by the IKEA, the clogged highway branching off into miles of parking. I smell the foul bay mud around the base of the bridge, and look across the water to Angel Island and the container ships making their placid, hulking way through the Golden Gate. And I say, "Look, look, look, honey, big boats, big boats!" But she's still crying 40 minutes after we've left the house, and she's still crying 40 minutes after that. The Buick is a beautiful, heavy boat built for long voyages, with soft taupe upholstery and a bench seat in the front, with seat belts for 3 across. It is a 1997 LeSabre that I inherited from my grandparents before I inherited their house, and it is now pointing toward its place of origin like a giant beige homing pigeon. I wish I could put Honey up here next to me, but that would obviously be 1,000 times worse safety-wise than having her facing forward in the back. When Engen and I made this drive the first time, he drove the complicated part to get over the bridge and onto the open road, and I sat in the middle seat nestled against him, pointing things out as we passed Berkeley, past El Cerrito, past Richmond, until we were well into the Golden Hills, scarred with cheap motels and roadside churches and housing developments. I showed him my favorite lone farmstead past Hercules, an 1800s beauty hunkering down amid a stand of poplars, beyond it rolling hills dotted with cows. It must have been one of the loveliest pieces of land on God's earth, and now it looks out at a highway lined with trash. If Engen and I can be said to have anything in common, anything that forms the basis of a solid, lifelong marital foundation, that is, it's a shared aesthetic, so that the landscape of California moves and offends us in equal parts. Thus he admired my farmhouse and the hills of the Coast Range, yellow as they were, and lamented with me the cheap, hideous housing tracts around Vallejo, Fairfield, Vacaville, and then the god-awful Nut Tree, a township comprised entirely of big-box commercial establishments, mattress stores and Starbucks, and fast casual dining a stone's throw from endless choking traffic, the smell of exhaust faintly perceptible even in the padded coffin of the Buick. But now it is Honey and I am driving straight-backed right up against the wheel with my shoulders up by my ears, sweating and worrying over my precious squawking cargo, and feeling so increasingly perturbed by her crying that soon I have to pull the car over again in a highway-adjacent dialysis center and cry into the steering wheel for 3 minutes along with her. Honey knows we have stopped the car, and her crying becomes more urgent, and her body begins straining against the straps of the car seat, and she makes a glubbing sound, and I look back at her, and before I can do anything, her mouth opens wide, and her eyes open wide with the unmistakable panic of imminent barfing, and I say, "No, no, no," and a small torrent of milk, water, cheese pieces, and noodle bites from daycare sprays forth onto her and the car seat, and her eyes are terrified. I lunge back and am trying to unbuckle her as another torrent comes forth, and then she recovers her breath and screams, so I know she's not dying. I get out of the car and sprint around to her door and undo the restraints from which she is frantically trying to free herself, and pick her up, and first hold her at a shameful arm's length before mother love grinds into gear, and I press her against me and cradle her hot head against my shoulder and smooth down her damp curls while she sobs. I grip her with one arm, open the trunk, dig in the tote bag, find a t-shirt and a pack of wipes and a new onesie, and I get her more or less wiped off and changed and sit her in the passenger seat and tackle the car seat with one eye on her, and I'm obscurely proud to see her return quickly to higher spirits and make a renewed effort with her cheese. She has a nice sense of equilibrium. I take my shirt off and put on one of Engin's, and we do a little walk around the parking lot, and finally she gives me a smile and squawks merrily when I kiss her on the mouth and do a zerbert into her neck. We have some water, and she finishes the cheese, and I put her back in the car seat and roll down the windows for the smell, and as I move down the exit and wait for some window between the terrifying rush of enormous pickups, SUVs, trucks, she has started up crying again. But once we get on the road and make our way through the perpetual snarl of traffic that surrounds Nut Tree, and finally get through Davis and Sacramento and head into the Sierra, she's asleep, and as we say goodbye to the dusty median oleanders of the flatlands and begin to feel the incline signaling our ascent to the high country, I have the slightest bit of that road trip feeling, that opening up, the road rising up to meet us, the marginal loosening of cares. The road is beautiful now, pine forests and limestone slabs and glimpses of Donner Lake in the distance. Once you get over the top of Donner Pass and some kind of geological divide, suddenly the forests are gone and the land is brown and stretching out for miles and miles, and that's Nevada. Then through Reno, its outer ring of subdivisions and lawns trying to be green, its downtown, its modest multi-story casinos, and the suggestion of tree-lined neighborhoods just hidden from view of the highway. In Alta Vista, this is the small C city, 4 hours away, where Mom and Uncle Rodney bought their prom clothes and their dress-up shoes, and had white tablecloth meals at the Regal Art Deco hotel they demolished 15 years ago. Every time I see the trees and think of the home prices, I think maybe Engin and I should try it out here. But Engin, having grown up in the heart of the world's greatest metropolis, is ruined for two-bit cities. For him, San Francisco is just a town, and I can't quite picture him on this patch of desert. Before Honey and I traverse the vast territory between Reno and Alta Vista, we have to eat. So we stop on the Nevada side at a little tiny casino called State Lines, which is where Mom and I always used to stop to get a cheeseburger, for reasons that escape me now, since it's a low-lying, unprepossessing building with tinted windows on a plateau overlooking the warehoused suburbs of Reno and a vast dry lake bed. When you open the door, on your left is the gambling section with indoor smoking, and on the right is a diner. The people are friendly, and the food is bad, and the seats are vinyl, and the art is mustardy paintings of water wheels and gold rush diggings. Honey sits on my lap and plays with the spoon and the fork, and I order the jumbo hot dog and share with her, cutting her half into tiny pieces, but she whines and mostly wants to take bites off mine like a big girl. Engin and I stopped here on our solo trip, and I said, as I had said for the days, weeks leading up to it, prepare yourself for a lot of downtrodden white people. And there were the customary white people saddled up to slots with oxygen machines and cigarettes smoldering in the ashtrays beside them, bearded men in shirts reading, for example, Donkey Kong is my spirit animal. Everyone with his hat on, women with big legs and bad hair, and rambunctious children. Now I am here, a white person not particularly downtrodden, but with big legs, bad hair, and rambunctious child, although she isn't really that rambunctious. Not really. And at this moment she is peaceful in my lap, happy to be out of the car, happy to be smiling at the hostess, who is not white, but brown, and who chucks Honey's cheek and touches her curly fuzz, and Honey points at a bronco in a painting and says, "Daggy, daggy, daggy," the only real word she can say. She sucks ketchup off the french fries, and I analyze her food intake today, and it is unbalanced, and I wonder how I will go about balancing it. I exchange smiles with two very old people sharing an enormous sandwich, he with a trucker hat and suspenders, the picture of my beloved burdock grandfather. But this man looks menacing to me, as everyone looks menacing to me lately. We finish our meal, my fingers already swelling from salt, and I stand and pluck my pants from my butt and haul Honey through the smoky side to the bathroom, and I pee, and there's no changing table, so I change Honey's diaper outside in the back seat of the baking car. Zerberts, zerberts, and more zerberts, and baby laughs. And so docile getting into the car seat, I think I can do this, and trot around to the driver's side with just the slightest bit of pep in my step.